Hello, welcome back to Choose to Teens, Parenting Authentically Through the Seasons with Betty and Ellie. We're here with part two of the Cycle Breaker series. This one is going to be how we interrupt generational patterns. Generational patterns are powerful learned beliefs and reactions. They sneak up without our permission, and if you don't become aware of them, they can take over your parenting style, leaving you feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, ashamed, or out of control. One of the most common experiences parents share with us is that moment when something stressful happens and all of a sudden the words come out of their mouth sound exactly like what their parents used to say when they were young. It can feel a little bit surreal sometimes. You might have spent years thinking, I'm never going to be that type of parent. I'm never going to say that to my children. I'm never going to do this. But then one day it's that stressful moment, or you're exhausted or you're overwhelmed, and you watch yourself say or do the thing that you swore you would never do. It might be a tone of voice, it could be a phrase that you said you'd never repeat, or maybe just the way that your body reacts before you even have time to think. These patterns were practiced for years in your childhood home and possibly through generations of your family's lineage. When your nervous system is under pressure, your brain naturally reaches for the responses that it knows best. And that's what we mean when we say that your brain can go back to its factory settings. The good news is neuroscience shows us that the brain is capable of building new patterns no matter how many times those old patterns have been repeated. That means the way that we respond to stress, to conflict, to big emotions, and all of the other parenting scenarios that come up, we can actually change those things. With awareness, education, and practice, you have the power to change generational patterns. In this episode, How We Interrupt Generational Patterns, we're sharing how parents can interrupt and rewire those patterns and become the cycle breakers for their families. Hi, I'm Ellie Knott, preschool teacher turned parent coach, and I help parents of young children who feel overwhelmed with the noise of what they feel like they should be doing find their most authentic parenting path so they can raise their children with more confidence, connection, and joy. And today I'm here with Betty Arteaga Muriel. Hi, Betty.
Hi guys, my name is Betty Arteaga Muriel, and I work with driven, high achieving parents who are thriving in their careers and their outside world, but feel overwhelmed and disconnected at home. And I help them move from surviving family life to leading their families with strength, compassion, and connection. And I am so excited for this conversation today, Ellie. And one of the things that I ask myself many, many times is like, why do I keep repeating the same patterns over and over again? Why is it that I go in and I have a plan and I have my intention, but all of a sudden it's like my mom just walk in the room and just starts talking in my ear, and I turn into her. I even heard my daughter said in a few occasions, like, you and mommy, that's my mom, are the same person. And even though I love my mother very much, and it is definitely an honor to be compared to her, it is not necessarily in the most in the best situations when it got compared. So why do we repeat them? In this case, is like a muscle memory. We call it factory settings, right? We're going back to that initial way where we learn how to react to this particular scenario. So in those cases, it's not a reflection of who you are, how good of a parent you are. It's just simply a human design. All it means is you are deeply human. And like Ellie mentioned earlier, generational patterns are just survival strategies that once upon a time they work. Once upon a time, they kept us safe. They help us learn how to navigate life and how to respond to it in a way that will keep us as safe as possible. And it could be physical safety or emotional safety. So we know what we know, right? We're gonna go back to those things. So let's say we are a person that usually at home things weren't talked about. When things happen, when somebody made a mistake, when conflict arise, maybe at home it was silent treatment. We don't talk about it. We don't even say that we are mad. We know, like, you knew your parents were angry at you because they only spoke to you maybe to ask you if you were hungry, and that was basically it. I'll bet it was the cold short shoulder, you don't exist, right? And then in those moments, expressing emotions, saying that you're angry, saying that you're hurt about what happened, wasn't an option. Because if you open up to speak about it, then the reaction that you will get from your parents will be even worse. You were gonna be in trouble. There might have been yelling, in cases that some cases it could even get physical, and not necessarily like a big beating, but even just a poop, you shut up, and they pop you in the mouth, right? We've come from a generation that believes strongly in authoritarian parenting, so in those moments that didn't feel safe. So now at home, when conflict arises, when your kids might be doing something that you don't like, that you don't know how to handle, your body, your mind, it goes there. It goes to that moment when it was not safe to express what you were feeling. And then in those moments, it could be either you stay quiet like you used to, and then you go back to that silent treatment, or you could even go the other way around. Now I can exert my authoritarian behavior, right? I am the leader of this house now, so I can go back to either state. You either feel more powerful in this situation and you go in straight, or you still feel like that little kid that couldn't talk. And you're just human. You're going back there automatically. Our parents likely repeated these patterns themselves because that was what they knew. It was their best attempt to keep you safe. It was their best attempt to be the parents that they wanted to be. They didn't have the resources that we have. They didn't have um they didn't have the opportunity to lower their defenses because they might have been in survivor mode the whole time. Now, our generation does have the opportunity to have access to all of this information, to have access to new ways of doing things, and also the freedom to kind of like experiment and be the family that you want to be. It is now, instead of we have to do things a certain way, we feel a little more, more wiggle room in life to be like, hey, I can be the person, I can be authentically me. My family can be something different from everyone else. They didn't have that. So the generations before us, they didn't have the resources or the ability to make those change. And the question now is, they didn't, right? Can we change them? And the answer is definitely yes. So how can we change them, Ellie?
I love how you mentioned we're kind of the first generation to have these resources and these knowledge that we can change. And like I mentioned before, we have neuroscience now that supports and backs up that our brains can change. They can always learn new things and new patterns. And it's something that makes me really excited about being alive right now, despite all of the crazy things happening in the world, despite all of the unique challenges in being in this modern day times. We have this opportunity right here to learn and to do new things that the generations before us didn't really have that opportunity. And so I'm really excited about it. And the first piece to changing generational patterns is simply becoming aware of them, which you're already doing if you're listening to this podcast, right? So just starting to figure out what are those patterns? Which ones do I want to change? Which ones are good, right? Just noticing them, starting to become aware when they happen, when you start to slip back into them, what those moments are. And as you do that, you're going to start to process, right? You're going to start to think, huh, why do I do this? Where did that come from? Is that something my mom did? Is that something that, I always did as a child? It was the way that I learned to respond in this situation. Or, maybe it's something that I can trace back to my grandparents, right? Or I've heard my parents tell stories about how with the way that things were when they were a child. And we start to make sense of it, right? We can start to contextualize now as adults. As kids, we didn't understand why our mom or our dad was, exploding or whatever it was, shutting down, doing the things they did. But as we get older and we understand, oh, well, maybe there was a war going on, right? Or maybe they were growing up in poverty, or who knows, right? So many different situations that could be happening. But the context and the history of your family's lineage starts to help you understand why these protective behaviors became a pattern for your family. And with that, you can start to process it, you can start to accept it, and then move on to committing to making that change and doing things differently. And it's a continual practice, right? So you're going to start to figure out, okay, where is the space for the pause, right? Because we've talked about how it's such a gut reaction, and we have to start creating space for the pause, because the pause is where we can then start to harness it and actually make the changes and consciously choose how we're going to respond instead of just doing that gut reaction, reacting the way that we always have because of those generational patterns. Um, and this might sound like a lot, and it definitely is. It's a practice, it's something that takes a while, and it's something that parent coaches are trained to help you with, right? Because it's really big work, it's really hard, and at the end of the day, just creating awareness isn't enough. So if you feel like you're stuck in that place of, well, I see what's going on here, but nothing's changing, that's where a parent coach can come in and help you really start again creating the pause, capturing the pause. And parent coaches also give you another perspective, right? I kind of think about it like, when you have something in your teeth, and all day long you might go walking around, you go to the store and you go to work and you pick up the kids from school, and nobody told you that you had something in your tooth, and you get home and you think, oh my gosh, I talked to so many people today and nobody told me this was in my tooth. Everyone just let me walk around this way, right? And so some of our generational patterns can be the same way. Even when we are aware, there can be some really sneaky ones that we just don't see. And so a parent coach can provide that extra perspective, especially as they start to get to know you and they start to help you connect different dots, right? And see the dynamics in your family and how things are going. They can shine a light on those spots that are really hard to see by yourself. And I think everyone has them. Again, it's not something to be ashamed of or afraid of, but it's just our humanity. And again, we have the opportunity to actually do something about it now, which is so, so special. Um, and an example of this is things that might be really still ingrained in our culture now. They really still feel normal. And me and Betty were talking about this um, earlier, where we give criticism to our kids all the time, right? Which, like, of course, you're right. We're teaching them, we're helping them figure things out, and in that we give criticism. But sometimes our kids might give us criticism, and then what happens, right? We might not be able to actually take that feedback from them and do something with them. Instead, we might see it as them talking back or being disrespectful, right? And so these are the dynamics that a parent coach can help you shine a light on, where sometimes it's hard to see that direct connection because we have this, baked into our society and our culture and our beliefs of like, kids should listen to their parents, right? They should obey, they shouldn't talk back. But how are we treating them, right? How are we talking to them? And so it's interesting when we start to see those dynamics and see, oh, well, maybe my child is just doing this because I correct them all the time. So why wouldn't they let me know when I'm making a mistake, right? So it's gaining that extra perspective. And then a parent coach also helps you have the accountability and the follow through, right? The follow up of making sure we work on these things, following these threads, coming back to it over and over, and not just forgetting about it. So it is possible to change. It is hard work. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's also hard to stay stuck in those patterns and to feel like you're out of control and you can't do anything about it. So we're here to help you take charge, create the patterns that you want, create that family legacy that you want to leave, um, and really just do things a new way, do things your way.
Yeah, and it's what Ellie was saying sounds scary. If it activates something in you, if when you hear it, you kind of like get the tingling, maybe it goes up, right? All of these sensations, uncomfortable. If maybe you even felt the need to, I don't want to listen to this anymore because it feels like too much, I get it. I get it. The idea of being a cycle breaker sounds heavy. It is a lot because we have become so aware. Like Ellie mentioned, we have become so aware with many of our generational patterns already, and it's like there are too many for me to solve. Do I have to take care of everything? I the cycle breaker of my family? And I hear that a lot, especially online. You are the chosen one, you are this, and it can feel like a lot of pressure. It might not be the best way for your nervous system to kind of warm up to the idea that it is a process, that it does take time, that it does take opening up a little bit of space. So, what I offer to you on the invitation that Ellie and me have for you today is to take the cycle breaker aside and think of it more as a cycle softener, right? We're softening those change. We are creating space for new chains to actually become possible, right? For new connections to become possible. So my offering, my invitation is, let's take a breath. Let's understand that there are ways for us to work with this, and we are definitely here to support you. But at the same time, let's, take that that baggage down. Let's put it aside for a moment and just concentrate in what feels good, safe, and what brings joy to our family. And we can start with those. And as we start unpacking, right, we putting it down, and as we start unpacking, we can decide then, how can I soften this? How can I shift it a little bit more towards the side that feels better for us without feeling the need to, this stops right here, right now, right? We are moving from that authoritarian parenting, even with ourselves, that power over, even with ourselves. We are allowing ourselves to live with all of those parts of us, even the ones that are carrying the heaviness. But we are allowing all of those parts to come together, and we are bringing in kind of like a new leader, a new benevolent personal self leader that says, you know what? It is okay if we make mistakes sometimes. It is okay if today I didn't show up like I know I can. And that, what that means is that we get to repair. And repair is the ultimate cycle breaker, even, right? It's the ultimate, because when those moments arise, and they will, if we get good at the repair, that's where we are actually starting to create that new shame. When we are able to sit down with our kids and say, hey, I might not have reacted the way that you needed me to at that moment, and I see it. Can we talk about this? And you listen to them, to their feedback, that feedback that Ellie was talking about, right? Let's let them talk, let's listen. And we are able to get to the point where, so what do you need in that moment? Okay, this is what I needed in this moment. And how can next time maybe we can go from there? How can next time maybe we can communicate better and we can make a plan together? And at the end of the conversation, it's like, thank you. Thank you for sitting down with me. Thank you for going over with this. Thank you for your patience. What I learned how to be a parent. And that repair is the one that is going to open the space for those hard conversations. It's gonna want to open the space for that safety that you want to create in your kids so that they can come to you when things are not good for them, when things don't feel good. Because we can have all the best intentions in the world. I know we're doing the best that we can, but sometimes we're gonna get it wrong. Sometimes we are thinking that our kids need the same things that we needed at their age, but they're completely different humans with their own needs, with their own little world, and in a completely different generation than the one that we grew up in. So their needs might be completely different, but how will we know if we don't take that time to create the safety for them to communicate? So, yes, repair. Don't be afraid of messing up. Don't be afraid of repeating some of those patterns because the important part is that you see it, that awareness, that you practice it, that your kids see you practice it. Because when they see you practice it, they're like, oh, so sometimes she yells, but she knows that that's not the way to react. So sometimes I might yell, but I have this other choice. We're showing them, they're learning from us, we're modeling to them what being human is all about. And if today's conversation resonated with you and you are feeling that pull to grow in the way you show up in your parenting, I would love to connect with you. And you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at your parenting underscore story, where I share reflections, resources for driven, high achieving parents who want their parenting to reflect both the fierce leadership that they have and compassion. You can also visit yourparentingstory.com for resources, more information about my work, and to schedule a free curiosity call where we can explore what's coming up for you in your parenting and what support might look like for you. And if you'd rather reach out directly, you can always email me at coachbetty@yourparentingstory.com. I would love to hear from you. And Ellie, how can they contact you?
Yeah, they can come to my website, elliechasecoaching.com, and you can head to the contact page where you can schedule a curiosity call, or you can send me an email so we can, again, start getting to know each other, see how I could support you. You can also join my newsletter, Curious Parents, Connected Families, where, these episodes will come straight to your inbox along with all kinds of other just quick little tips and tidbits that you can, take in and apply to your week really easily. And then you can also find me, Ellie Chase Coaching, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Um, I would love to hear from you if you're ready to start softening those cycles. But also, don't forget, leave us a comment down below and let us know, what is that thing that you swore you would never say or do that you catch yourself doing now? Help us bring it out into the light. We all have them. I know we do. So let us know, get the conversation started, and we'll be back in the next episode talking about what is possible when we soften these cycles, right? Because you deserve this, your children deserve this, our world deserves this. We deserve to take this opportunity that we have with all of the education, all of the resources that we have available to us now, and make that change. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, wherever you are from twos to teens, you've got this. We'll see you next time.